I don't see the countdown at all, Logan, so I'm not sure if I'm supposed to go or not. Logan, am I supposed to go? I can't see. Logan, can you tell me if I'm supposed to start? I think I am, but I'm not sure. Sorry, folks, if you're watching this.
Oh no, it's not letting me.
Hey, Janet. Yes, some of the folks are in the chat. You are live. You're free to begin.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I didn't see the countdown or anything. Can you
Oh,
tell
I'm
me
so
stay
sorry.
on and tell me that you see my screen here, my slideshow?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, technical difficulties. We're all good now. Welcome to the session on what you need to know about scholarship essays. I am going to introduce myself in just a moment, but I always like to start my presentations with good news, and this is your good news. If you are a high school student, you're in grade 12, or you're coming up to grade 12, I want you to know that grade 12 is your best opportunity to win scholarships ever in your life. Now, that does not mean that once you get into post-secondary that you should stop looking or that there are none available. That is not the case. Of course, there's going to be some available to you throughout your university or your post-secondary career, but there are many that are earmarked for students who are in grade 12 and who will be progressing to post-secondary for the first time. And that is where a lot of the largest scholarships are as well. So there's really kind of this, golden window of opportunity for you. And that's why I'm so glad that you're here to find out more about how you can capitalize on that opportunity. So this is me. I'm Janet McDonald. The name of my business is My Campus GPS. I am a former university admissions officer at Dalhousie and at UBC in Vancouver. And I started this work because I noticed over the years of working with thousands of students and families that a lot of students were missing out on scholarships simply because they didn't know much about them. They didn't know where to find them, how to apply for them, and worse, they didn't even know that they qualified for scholarships when they actually did qualify. So they were missing out on all of that stuff. So really simply what I do is I help Canadian high school students with how to find and win scholarships. So let's get into what we're going to cover here today. We don't have a lot of time, so I just kind of picked some, really important stuff that I think that it's important that you know. We're just going to start with what are scholarships, and then three things that you need to know about the scholarship essays. We're going to talk some strategy here today, not just kind of like what you do, but how to do it in the best way. And hopefully through this information, it will inspire you to take some action. Now, I love to answer questions, so please put your questions in the chat, and I want to save some time at the end to answer your questions. Okay, so I'm going to zip through this information so we have time to do that. First thing that you need to know about scholarship essays is that all applications are different. Okay, so what does this mean? First of all, let's back up and talk about what are scholarships. Scholarships are education funding offered by an organization, so that might be a post-secondary institution, or it might be a different kind of funder. But the thing that identifies scholarships is that they are based on merit, and that means that you have to earn them in some way. It might be through grades, although grades are not required for all scholarships, or it might be doing something like engaging in volunteer work, or simply by writing an essay. Now, so that's what, what they all kind of have in common, is that all scholarships are based on merit, but they are all different because it is the funder or the organization who is offering the money. It is the funder who determines everything about the scholarship, and all of the funders are different. So, excuse me. So it'll be the funder who determines, who the scholarship is for. So in other words, what are the requirements to apply? It will be up to the funder to determine how much money it is, and they will also determine what, if there is an essay, what the essay is about. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that the funder is important. And the first mistake that students make with scholarships and writing essays is that they don't prepare properly. And I'm going to encourage you to prepare properly, and I'll tell you how to do that. So before you start writing, like a lot of students, they just go straight to, what's the essay about, and they start writing. They don't even, consider what the scholarship is for, who is offering the money. And I will tell you that the funder is important. There are two main kinds of funders. One is the post-secondary institution itself, so the university or college who is offering, they offer scholarships. And then there are other types of funders as well. So collectively we call these external funders. And basically what that means is all of those funders external to the post-secondary institutions. So that means basically everybody else. So banks, foundations, insurance companies, sports organizations, communities, everybody else. Okay. And so it is the funder, remember, who determines everything about the scholarship. So you need to know who is the funder and what is important to them. So get to know the funder. That is your job. And then you can align your essay to what is important to that funder. So who is the funder? What are their values? They're asking these questions for a reason. Why are they asking that question? What do they want to know? So sometimes the funder, if the funder is a post-secondary institution like a university, they might want to know, a time that you faced a challenge in the past and how you coped with it, and then what you learned from that. With this, they're trying to get you to think about, okay, when you transition from high school to university, there will be challenges for you. There will be academic challenges, there will be social challenges. They want to know that you will transition into university in the best possible way, so that you will stay there, so that you will be successful there. Okay, so they might ask you about a challenge, for example. They might ask you about, why are you applying for this program. The external funders there are so many different kinds of those, but generally speaking, external funders are usually more focused on students who have some kind of volunteerism or community involvement. Post-secondary institutions tend to be more focused on grades. They always have your grades, and leadership kind of activities for those bigger awards. External funders, grades may or may not even be required, and they are more interested in students who have contributed to their community in some way. So they value that community involvement. So you want to know, what do they value and why are they asking this question? Read the entire application before you start writing, so that you get a sense of who is offering this money, what's important to them, and then you can determine from that what to put on your essay, so that you can align yourself, your values, your activities with what it is that they want to reward in their scholarship. Sometimes as well, the application will actually have like a a rubric or some kind of like grading scale that where they will tell you what you will actually be assessed on. So sometimes that information is in there as well, and that can be gold to help you to determine how you're going to write your essay. So all of this information about the funder is important. Don't just jump right into writing. Really get a sense of who the funder is and what's important to them, and that will inform what you put into your essay. Okay, so that's the first part. The next what you need to know about scholarship essays is that there are common essay themes. Now, like I say, all of the scholarships are different, but there are some things that are common on many of them. And one of those things that is common is that there are some themes that come up again and again. I've been doing this for 7 years. I've seen a lot of applications, and again and again, we see the same kind of themes come up in the essay questions. So they might be worded differently, but the basic concept is very similar with many of them. Some of them are completely different, okay? But there are these common themes. So they are all different, but the most common type of essay is the reflective essay. So this is the type of essay that asks you to talk about your experience or your experiences and pull out the learning from that. Discuss a time that this happened. What did you learn from this experience? That is a very common kind of essay. So it's the self-reflection that you need to do and then demonstrate self-knowledge. They're looking for, what is your motivation for doing the things that you do? What did you learn from your this experience? And then how will you use that learning in the future to benefit others? Okay, so these are these reflective type of questions. And these reflective type of questions, there are some common themes that come up in them. One of the common themes is around a challenge. Discuss a time you faced a challenge. What was it? What did you learn from this experience? Or discuss a time you challenged yourself. What did you do and what did you learn? The second kind of common essay theme is around leadership. Discuss a time you were in a leadership role. What skills did you use in that role? What challenges did you face? And what did you learn from this experience? So you start to see the theme here. What did you do and what did you learn? Discuss your most meaningful volunteer commitment. Why was it important to you? What did you learn from this experience? These are all reflective type of essays. Reflect on an experience and pull out the learning. Discuss, why you were motivated to do these things. Now, there is one that's a little bit different, and that's about your future plans. That I wouldn't say is so reflective, although it's somewhat reflective. But these are the common essay themes. So here's a tip. Because these are common, if you're applying for more than one scholarship, and I hope you are, then you can actually often reuse some of the essay content that you create for one in other ones. Okay, so I encourage you to kind of, if you're writing scholarship essays right now, or if you wanted to take the initiative to start to write, like tell us about a challenge, tell us about your leadership, and write about 300 words to get that information out. It's highly probable if you are applying for a lot of scholarships that you can reuse this information over and over again. Now, you still have to tailor it to the new funder, because remember, you're going to, understand who the funder is and what they're looking for, but you don't have to start from scratch. It will save you a lot of time if you already have some content created that you can just tailor to the new applications. And I will tell you, this works. This is how people win scholarships, and this is how people win multiple scholarships. Okay. So that's the third thing you need to know, the third thing is, what is the purpose of the essay? So, like I say, they're all different. And let's look at kind of like the main parts of a let's say like a full application. A lot of, well, not a lot, but some applications, like the full ones, may ask you for a transcript of your grades. They may ask for a list of your extracurricular activities. They may ask for one or more references. And then they may ask for an essay if we're talking kind of like a full application package. The purpose of the essay is not to just, regurgitate your activities list again to them in longer form. That's why I have the big X over that list there. The purpose of the essay is to get to know you. So they'll know if they have other information about you, they'll know a little bit maybe about your grades, they'll know about some of your different extracurricular activities, maybe they'll know a little bit about you from your references, about your character and that sort of thing. But the purpose of the essay is to get to know you as a person. Okay, this is your opportunity to do that. So how do you do that? Like I say, you're going to talk about your experiences, you're going to reflect on them, and talk about the motivation that caused you to take on the challenge, or to, to engage in that volunteer activity, or to take on that leadership role. You're going to discuss what you learned. And this is really the most important part of most essays. And then how you might use that learning in the future. And remember that there's a bit of what's in it for me from the funder. The funder wants to reward people who have contributed in the past, but they also want to encourage that contribution in the future. So you want to let them know that, I did this thing and I learned all these great skills, and here's how that is going to benefit others in the future. So here's how I'm going to take these wonderful leadership skills to Queen's University, or to, wherever, and I'm going to use those to create more opportunities for other people in the future. Okay, so you want to show them that you are basically a good investment, okay, if you want to put it in more economic terms. Now, the other thing that it's important that you do is that you make sure that you answer the question. And you're probably thinking, well, of course, Janet, I'm going to answer the question. Why wouldn't I answer the question? But you would be surprised how many people don't answer the question. Again, they just plow into, the writing part. They don't read the entire application, have a really good sense of, what it is that they're applying for. And they will just plow through that question. And especially if it is a multi-part question, you need to answer each part of that question. So some essay prompts have multiple parts to them. Like if you're doing the TD leadership one, you know that there are several things that you need to address in that essay. They give you basically a list of things that you need to discuss. It is important that you discuss each one of those. Remember, they're asking these questions for a reason. Okay, so it's your job to make sure that you do that. Here is a tip to make sure that you are reading, that you're answering the question. And when I'm reviewing essays for students, this is what I do. I read the first, if it's a multi-part question, I read the first question, and then I go into the essay, the student's essay, and I find the answer to that one question in their essay. If I can't find the answer to that question in their essay relatively easily, they either didn't answer it at all, or they didn't answer it very clearly, which means they need to clarify that usually. So that's the first question. Then I go to the next question, and then I find the answer in the essay for that one. And I go through that, piece by piece, and find the answer to each part of the question in the essay. So that is a great tip for you when you're editing your essay and you think, okay, I think I've got this pretty much done here. Go back and make sure that you answered the question. Okay. Okay, so I said that I wanted to spend, a lot of time on answering your questions, because I don't think that happens often enough. But I wanted to just tell you, this is a snip of my website. That is the website address. If you are applying for scholarships, I can pretty much guarantee you are going to have to write at least one essay. So I want you to know that I offer a 2.5-hour scholarship essay writing workshop. There is a lot more to know than just what we covered today. And this is happening on Sunday, December 4th. We are going to cover lots of information. It is a workshop, so you will actually be applying the information that you learn in the workshop with me. Okay, so this is, I teach a part and then you actually start to write an essay in the workshop with me. So this is not just me talking for 2.5 hours. You will actually be putting into practice the things that you are learning, and you'll get a whole bunch of excellent resources to use afterwards as well. A lot of students say that after they've done the workshop, it's giving them a lot more confidence to actually apply for scholarships. So they oftentimes, when you're faced with an essay question, it's hard just to get past the blank page, right? It's where do you start? So we go through all of that from start to finish. And then once you get some of this, you start the essay in the workshop with me, and then you can finish it afterwards. And then you can use that great content over and over again to apply for scholarships all year long. So, you learn how to do it, plus you create this great content. Okay, so that is the address there. There are only 10 seats in my workshops. I like to keep them small just in case there are questions that students have. And I do want you to know as well that there will be no you will not be put on the spot in any way to do anything that you don't want to do. So there are no breakout rooms or anything like that. You're not put on the spot. In fact, some students just log in. It's an online workshop. So some students just log in. They don't go on camera. They don't ask any questions. They just listen. They do the exercises and they leave. Okay. Now, if you want to ask questions, you can, but I just want you to know if you just want to get the information and not participate, you will not be required to participate in any way if you don't want to. I just want to make it comfortable for everybody. And so I've had a lot of, success, or the students who have taken the program have had a lot of success with applying for scholarships after they have taken the workshop. So, the workshop itself is $199. So they're getting a pretty good return on their investment here with that 2.5 hours and $200. So I wanted to point that out and let you know that there are further resources for you for scholarship essay writing. So here's what we learned. Grade 12 is your best opportunity to win scholarships. So I do encourage you to take the action and start to do this today if you haven't already. All scholarship applications are different, and they're different because of the funder, and they are all different. So it is important that, who is offering the money here? You need to know that, and then you can tailor your application and specifically your essay to that. There are some common essay themes. So once you get some of this content created, you can use it over and over again by tweaking it, and making sure you're tailoring it to the different applications, but you don't have to start from scratch. And that is a great way to be efficient. It's a great strategy to use, and it is a successful one for many students. Purpose of the essay is to get to know you. So make sure that you discuss your motivation, what you learned, and then how you'll use that learning in the future. Often, you want to keep the focus on how what you learned will benefit others in the future somehow. Okay, and my encouragement here is for you to definitely start this process now. And that is my battle cry to you. Go forth and make those applications. So if you need some help, you can, check out my essay writing workshop. Okay, so that's just the presentation part. And now I just would love to answer your questions. This is actually a student of mine, and this is her at UNB. So let's start with some questions.
Thanks very much, Janet. We've got lots of questions and maybe 15 minutes or so to address them. So we'll go through as best we can. Any recommendation? Oh, excuse me, sorry. Any recommendations on how to stand out as an applicant?
Lots of different ways, I guess you would say, to stand out. One of them, like I say, answer the question. You'd be surprised how many people don't. Really, if you have taken any kind of specific initiative, so something that you have started, you have improved in some way. Scholarship funders love students who take initiative. So who, see a problem or see something that needs to be done and do something about it. So if you have done anything like that, make sure that that is brought out in your essay. Another thing that makes an essay stand out is a really interesting opening. It doesn't have to be super creative even, but just not boring. Okay. So sometimes, I've been a scholarship reader and it is, kind of painful if you're reading like 100 essays and, it's a really boring sentence at starting it. It's a long sentence. Like I get lost reading it on the first time through. I have to go back up and read it again. Don't do that. So my tip for that is to write your essay, and then after you've written your essay, you know exactly what you've said, you know what it's about, you know the main thing that you've learned, you know the main point that you made in your essay. Then go back up and write a killer opening. Okay, so write the opening last. Don't worry about the writing the opening, like how am I going to start this off? What's a good way to start this up? Forget about it. Just go right into the essay, body of the essay. And once you have that all figured out, then you go back up and you write a killer opening. That's a great technique.
Thanks very much. That's fantastic. We've got a question from somebody who is in third year, hasn't started applying yet for awards. Any advice for older students?
Well, a lot of the essays, or a lot of the applications are probably going to be similar, but they might focus a little bit more maybe on like your future plans. So knowing kind of what you're going to do in your program, when it's done, or some kind of career, it might be that kind of focus. That is not my area of specialty. I'm really more focused on high school students entering university for the first time. So I don't have a lot more to say about that one, but a lot of this information will be applicable to students in university as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Janet. How about how would you respond to a prompt that's something like "tell us about yourself"? How do you address something so broad?
Well, I guess again, you want to know who's the funder, what's important to them, and what can I align. So if the funder is you want to what's in it for them. Okay, so you want to talk about yourself, of course, but you also want to apply that to like how can you help or do something either for them or for other people in the future. So what skills do you bring that and unique kind of experiences do you have, and how do you use those to contribute in some way to your community, whatever that community is. So even though it might be pretty broad, there would be a reason why they ask that. It's not a very creative way to get information from people, but I would say tell them about more, still talk about your experiences, the motivation, what you learned, and how you can help others. I think that's a pretty good safe bet for most essays.
How about reference letters? How do students go about getting them?
Yeah. Okay. So your referee should be somebody who knows you well and can speak about you in detail using some kind of example, ideally. So they should know you well enough that they can say, Logan is a great role model for other students. For example, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the more specific they can be, the better. Okay, so they do need to know you pretty well in order to do that. It is your job as the applicant to give your referee everything they need to give you the best reference possible. So you need to give them all the information about the application, the deadline and everything. You can give them maybe a list of your activities or something so they get an idea about kind of all the different things that you do. But it is really your job to make sure that they do that. The other thing is to send a reminder about the deadline. I know of students who have lost out on applications after they've put in so much work because the referee did not meet the reference deadline. So send that email or touch base with your referee, at least I would say 3 days before the deadline, and just say, I'm just making sure that you, did this, and I thank you so much. Always thank them and everything, but make sure that they have everything that they need and that they actually follow through.
Thanks, Janet. We've got another one here about receiving scholarships that are worth more than your tuition. A, does it happen? And B, what happens to the funds that
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a great question. And it goes, a lot of times students will say, can I win more than one scholarship? And the answer is absolutely. Okay. So, I have had students win 10 scholarships. Now, can you keep all of the money, or does all of the money go directly to you? That's up to the funder. Sometimes the funder will say they don't care. They just give you, the money. And then other times the funder will say, if you are in receipt of another scholarship or another scholarship up to the amount of whatever, then we'll withhold some of it, or we'll just give it to you in name only or something. And the idea here is to spread it out to other students, which makes sense. But that is not always the case. Sometimes they will just, give you the full amount. Now, usually what happens is when you win a scholarship, they will ask you to tell them what university you will be attending, and the money will be deposited directly into your student account at that university. If the funds cover more than your tuition, often what happens is that it will go maybe towards your residence or some other types of fees that are built in to your student account. But that is not always the case. So again, it's up to the funder. They determine everything. So when you win a scholarship, you need to read the terms of the scholarship to make sure you know, how do I get the money? Or do I keep all of the money? If it's a renewable scholarship, how do I get my scholarship money year to year? What things do I have to do in order to get my renewable scholarship? So make sure that you read those terms very carefully.
Super. Thanks, Janet. We've just got a couple of more minutes, but a ton of
what it is you're looking
questions.
for.
Graduating in 2024, when should I start applying?
Well, there are scholarships for students younger than those in grade 12. There's not a lot of them, but there are a few of them. So, I mean, you can get on scholarshipscanada.com, make a profile, and start to see that, different kinds of scholarships that may be for students who are, before grade 12. So that is a possibility. Like the bulk of the scholarships are going to start being offered in September of your grade 12 year. Okay, that's when it really heats up. But you can do things, if you are in grade 10 or 11 right now, this is a perfect opportunity. You've got a nice long runway, and you can do things like get credentials. So if there's any type of award that you can win, or contests like the Waterloo math contests or things like that, any type of credential that you can earn, like any type of award, that looks great on a scholarship application. And engaging in some kind of meaningful volunteer work is also probably the most important thing that you can do in grade 10 and 11, because that type of meaningful volunteer work is going to give you that great essay content. When you get into grade 12 and you start to write those essays, you'll have that great content where you can talk about your leadership in this, or this time you took on this responsibility and what you learned from that. So you have lots of opportunity to get that great experience that you will use on essays in grade 12.
Super. Thanks a ton. We've got a lot more questions. Anybody whose question we don't get to, please come visit Jenna at the booth. You can reach out to her or visit her website, even better, mycampusgps.ca. Another good one here. What tone is most commonly required in essays? Formal, informal, casual? What do you think?
Great question. Okay, so in most of these essays, unless it's a really success-based essay, one that really, where you're supposed to talk about all of your awards or your leadership and, the different, those types of ones, maybe if you're applying to more like business programs, it might be a little bit more formal or a little bit more like businessy, I guess you would say. But for most of these reflective questions, your tone should be more conversational. So it should basically sound like you. So I just kind of tell students write as you would normally speak, and then just make it a little bit more formal. Okay. But it should be more conversational. So you can use, like, for example, you can use contractions like they, instead of they will, they'll, things like that. That's perfectly fine. But you do need to make sure that it is well written. Okay, so that just because it's casual doesn't mean that you can have typos or spelling mistakes or anything like that. But it should be more sort of conversational versus formal.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for somebody who has read a lot of scholarship essays myself. Totally agree. We got another one here. For those taking a gap year after high school, will scholarships aimed at grade 12 still apply to them?
Again, it depends on the funder. Some funders will allow students who have taken a gap year to apply. Some will love that you've taken a gap year. And then other ones, they may not, that you may not meet the requirements if you have taken a gap year. Sometimes you can apply, and if you are taking a gap year, you can request a deferral. Just like you can request a deferral to a program, admission to a program. But again, it's up to the university if they will defer your admission, and it's up to the funder if they will defer your scholarship as well. So sometimes that information is in the application information, but if it's not, if there's anything that you want to ask about, it's not there, then just contact the funder and ask them.
Great advice. When in doubt, reach out. I always hammer that point home myself. We're pretty much out of time, Janet, so thanks so much. I know we have a bunch more questions. I'm sorry we couldn't get through them all, but again, come see Janet at her booth or her website. Janet, thank you for your time. Any parting words from you?
Oh, just that my battle cry, go out there and make those applications. And thank you so much for your attention, everybody. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Janet. See ya.
See ya.